I grew up learning one rule before anything else. Silence kept me alive. My mother never raised her voice without raising her hand. To the outside world, she was a hard-working single parent who did her best. Inside our home, she was unpredictable, explosive, and exacting. I learned early that the wrong step, the wrong tone, or even the wrong expression could end with me on the floor. There were other children, other men who came and went, other stories no one talked about. I was the constant, the outlet, the one who absorbed her anger when the day had gone badly or when the past crept up behind her. School was the only place where time moved forward. Teachers praised me, numbers made sense, essays followed rules. I thought education might be my exit, my proof that I could become someone else. When I was older, she promised me something that felt like mercy. If you go to college, you can stay here until you finish. I believed her. That was my mistake. During my second year, exhausted from finals and working nights, I came home later than usual. She was waiting. She always was. This time, though, I didn't argue. I didn't apologize. I didn't explain. I walked past her in silence. That silence terrified her. She called the police and told them she feared for her life. By the time the officers arrived, I was already packing what I could carry. I left with a single bag and nowhere to go. College ended not with a graduation, but with missed exams and unanswered emails. Homelessness is not dramatic. It is repetitive and dull and humiliating. It teaches you how invisible you can become. Years passed before I stabilized, years of bad decisions, temporary couches, and learning how to survive without expecting help. Eventually, I built something small but steady, a job, a room of my own, enough peace to sleep. Then she reached out. Her message was cheerful, almost affectionate. Against my better judgment, I answered. We spoke briefly, carefully, like strangers rehearsing politeness. When she asked about my life, I told her the truth. She laughed. She said I exaggerated, that I didn't understand real abuse, that my struggles were my fault. That moment ended something in me, not violently, but permanently. What she never realized was how much I remembered, how much I saved. Documents, images, records. Not for revenge, I told myself, just in case someone ever asked me to prove that it happened. When I contacted the authorities, I didn't exaggerate or editorialize. I submitted facts, timelines, evidence. They arrived while she was repeating the same patterns with someone else. The rest unfolded without me raising my voice even once. Investigations, consequences, doors closing that she thought were permanent fixtures. I did not celebrate. I did not call her. I did not announce myself as the cause. I simply left. Again, but this time without running. Some people say forgiveness is the only way to heal. Maybe that's true for them. For me, survival meant choosing distance, truth, and finally, myself. I didn't destroy her life. I stopped letting her destroy mine. Sometimes surviving doesn't mean you are healed, and some stories don't end just because someone walks away. I was destroyed by a town that pretended to be holy. I was born into a place that believed sin was contagious.
The town sat in the middle of farmland and scripture, where everyone knew everyone else's business, and virtue mattered more than truth. Sundays were mandatory, appearances were law, and forgiveness only applied to people who looked respectable enough to deserve it. From the moment I existed, I didn't. My mother carried a history the town refused to acknowledge. Rumors clung to her like stains, and when she became pregnant, the story was rewritten to protect the men with influence. I inherited the consequences of that lie. No father, no defense, just a label that followed me into every classroom and hallway. School was less about learning and more about endurance. I learned quickly how cruelty could wear polite faces. Some classmates mocked me openly. Others smiled while they did it. Even authority figures participated, not always with words, but with silence. I learned that hostility, if sharpened carefully, could become armor. I survived by becoming difficult, by making myself someone people avoided. Leaving was the first time my lungs worked properly. A relative I barely knew helped me escape to a city where no one cared where I came from. Therapy gave language to wounds I had assumed were permanent. I built a life that functioned, a career that rewarded analysis over obedience. Distance softened the memories, but never erased them. Years later, my work sent me back, not as a son of the town, as an evaluator. The place hadn't changed. One industry fed everything else. Employment flowed through the same social circles that ran the churches. Promotions still followed piety more than competence. It was fragile, even if no one wanted to admit it. They didn't recognize me at first. I listened, I observed, I documented. I asked neutral questions that exposed inconvenient truths. Somewhere along the way, they realized who I was. Smiles stiffened, hospitality increased. Old classmates appeared, eager to rewrite history. They invited me to dinner. We laughed about the past, or at least they did. I mentioned things casually, incidents, jokes, moments that had shaped me. I watched discomfort ripple across the table, then vanish as they convinced themselves I had moved on. They believed familiarity would protect them. After I left, I wrote my report. I didn't invent anything. I simply refused to soften it. Every inefficiency, every ethical shortcut, every systemic weakness was laid out, clearly, professionally, and thoroughly. The decision wasn't mine alone, but my words tipped the scale. The factory closed. The town unraveled slowly after that. Jobs disappeared. Businesses followed. People blamed outsiders, the economy, fate. No one blamed themselves. I didn't return to watch. I see fragments sometimes, faces, names, public posts filled with nostalgia and bitterness. I feel no triumph, no regret either, only a distant clarity. I learned something there after all. Power doesn't always look like anger. Sometimes it looks like accuracy. And sometimes the quiet kid who leaves is the one who understands exactly how everything falls apart.